Hello folks, welcome to the latest edition of the UK Car News. You might see some crazy continuity issues in this video, and that's because I've filmed it over 3 separate days. During that time, Auto Express completely changed their whole logo, their website, everything. So as I said, you're going to see some continuity issues. I also look more handsome at the moment than I did yesterday, and I'm wearing some different clothes. I'm just telling you this so you don't have to remind me of it in the comments. Let's crack straight on. Most of this is coming from Auto Express and Autocar. UK under pressure to impose tariffs on Chinese EVs regardless of price hikes. Professor of Business and Sustainability at Cardiff University says that erecting trade barriers will come at the expense of car buyers. I couldn't agree more with him. So if you haven't seen the news, Canada is about to put 100% tariff on Chinese cars. US has done the same. The EU is putting 38%, I think, 36.3% on EV imports from China. Professor Wells from Cardiff said the UK is, in global terms, a small market with a residual industry. As with Canada, it's likely that the UK will need to follow the EU position, although in this case, the varied application of different tariff rates by the EU might be difficult to sustain in the World Trade Organization. And he says subsidies are found in almost all markets now, largely acting to distort consumer choice. And just look at this. Lotus slashes EV sales targets by 78%. Due to new US tariffs, Geely-owned luxury brand targets 12,000 sales this year, down on its previous goal of 55,000, and that's because of these new tariffs just in the US. If we're now looking at Canada as well, when the EU come in, if we follow suit, that could be the end of Lotus. It's a very complex and emotive subject, but I'm pro-consumer on these kind of things. 7 in 10 drivers make the same mistake when merging in a turn. According to a study by dealer network 𝘼𝙁𝙁𝙁𝙁, which has to be my favourite car dealership name, 7 in 10 or 68% of motorists will immediately move out of a closing lane as soon as they see a merge in turn sign, with one of the main reasons for doing so being politeness. However, the highway code states that you should wait until the final merging point before switching lanes, despite 69% of drivers thinking it's rude to do so. If you do try to stick to the highway code guidance, merging can be difficult, as roughly a third of 500 drivers interviewed said they actively try to stop other drivers entering their lane when they do so at the last minute. I see this all the time, like on a almost daily basis. We've got a couple of merging turns quite close to where I live, and people get very upset and very territorial. You'll see little kind of tiffs. Sometimes someone will even get so upset they beat their horn at someone, and then they'll get one back. And it's all a bit pathetic. Like, just merge, folks. It works. If we all just merge when we should, i.e. at the end of the lane that's closing, and other people allow you to merge, then it works. And that's the point they're making here. But people seem to get very territorial and think, well, I moved into this lane 2 miles ago, and I'm not going to let this tosspot in that's just bombed down the outside. It doesn't really get anywhere. Just all stay in your lanes, merge when you should, get on with it. And by the way, folks, this middle lane is for overtaking people in this lane. It's not for sitting at 70 miles an hour on forevermore. I see more and more middle lane hogging. I don't think anyone's been prosecuted for it yet, despite it being in the highway code and now an offence that you can get points for, you can get fined for and get points for. I don't think anyone's been done for it yet, but it's rife. Stay in that lane. If you want to overtake something in that lane, get into that one. If you want to overtake something in that lane, get into that one. Job done. Internet breaking Hyundai Envision 74 is actually going to be built. Hyundai appears to have confirmed that its stunning 2022 concept car will enter production. This is one of my favourite looking vehicles on the face of the earth. I think it's gorgeous. I think it's great. I love it. I want one. I won't be able to afford one. And The Hague backs low traffic zones in pursuit of 50% target for walking and riding. Transport Secretary pledges councils will be fully supported if they choose to launch their own low traffic neighbourhoods. And they show the centre of London here. This is near Liverpool Street Station. I used to work literally just off picture here, just round the corner in Alley Street. I worked in an office with 32 people in it, and none of us could walk to work because nobody can afford to live in the places where a lot of the jobs are in London, particularly in central London. And if you can afford to live there, you know, you've probably got this office at the top of the gherkin. But the difference we've got with a lot of these European cities is that no one can walk to work. Cycling to work, I mean, loads of people cycle in London. I wouldn't, because I don't want to kill myself. But lots of people do. But I can only speak for our office, and every one of us got the tube into work because there was no real alternative, unless you had a week to get there or an unlimited budget. But then you compare London to a city like Madrid, where I also used to work, and nearly everyone walks into the office because it's a compact city. There's affordable housing in the middle of the city. There are public transport options for those that need them, but lots of people don't. It's a very different kettle of fish. And going back to this part of London, hardly any passenger cars because you're in the congestion zone. It's a nightmare to get anywhere. But even on a bike here, the danger you're going to get from taxis and buses is immense, not to mention the pedestrians. So I wouldn't ride a bike just from the threat of pedestrians walking out in front of you on their phone, because that happens about every 4 seconds. The amount of people I've seen fall off a bike along here, I can't even count, to be honest. There are just way too many of them. And I don't think this can work in the majority of our major cities in the UK for the reasons I've said. And for those same reasons, it'll work in a lot of European ones. But because they're doing it doesn't mean we have to. And I think the government would do well to remember that. The new Vauxhall Grandland Hybrid priced under 35k, but the EV is £6,000 more. So that's going to put it into luxury car tax zone. £41,000 for a Vauxhall Grandland? No. Like, why? A Vauxhall Grandland is at best going to be a head car. It's never going to be a heart car, is it? You're not going to get yourself a Grandland because you've always wanted one and you love the way it looks and the way it drives, because there are always going to be more exciting alternatives. You're going to buy one because it makes good financial sense, or, you know, it's sensible and ticks all the boxes and the price is right. That's why you're going to get into one of those. If you offered me one of those now over one of the other Stellantis cars, like the Peugeot 3008, for example, I'll take the Peugeot 3008 because it's more interesting in every way, despite being based on the same platform. So I really wonder sometimes what's going on when manufacturers make these decisions about pricing. It just seems kind of suicidal almost. Go boomers. 59 to 77-year-olds are the most confident car buyers. Consumer confidence surveys reveal that older drivers from the baby boomer era are most likely to buy a car without help. They're also the most likely to watch my videos about buying a new car or leasing a car or anything like that. So that's interesting. Only 33% of the millennials, so that's 27 to 42 years old, are confident in buying a car without help. Can I travel long distances in an EV? BMW's app has all the answers. An update to BMW's mobile phone app will analyse driver data and tell them whether an EV would seamlessly slot into their lifestyle. I hope one of the first questions is, have you got a home charger, or can you get a home charger? Because they'll both be quite kind of fundamental points, I would suggest. Obviously you can have an electric car without having a home charger, but it's a damn sight easier if you have. Lots of people still can't have one because they live in terrace housing or flats or rented accommodation, and the councils are doing next to bugger all to resolve that situation, despite being told to by government. So hopefully that's a big factor in this. Okay, here's one from GB News. Pay-per-mile car tax charges are the way forward and needed as soon as possible, according to the RAC. Now, Keir Starmer came out the other day and said the budget's going to really hurt, and but they're not doing anything with VAT or income tax, etc. So this is one of the things that's rumoured to be coming very, very soon, is pay-per-mile road tax. The RAC say, as more and more EVs come onto the roads, the government will need to tax drivers differently. We think replacing fuel duty with a pay-per-mile system as soon as possible is the way forward, and then the only tax levied on fuel would be VAT. That would give retailers nowhere to hide. I just don't see where they're coming from with this at all. As the UK looks to move to more eco-friendly forms of travel, especially if it wants to meet its ambitious 2035 net zero goals, electric cars will need to pay their fair share. Yeah, no problem with that whatsoever. From April next year, electric cars will be subject to VED charges, but experts warn this is not soon enough. A pay per mile tax could close the gap between how much drivers are taxed while also levelling the playing field. Right, so firstly, taking the tax off fuel duty and just leaving VAT as the only tax is going to give them an even bigger gap to fill. Like the amount the government charge on fuel in terms of that fuel duty and tax is huge. I did a video on it a while ago. It's massive. A huge amount of the price you pay for a litre of fuel is purely duty and tax. It's going to make petrol and diesel cheaper, and I don't see how that's going to spur on more people to get into an electric car, which is what the government's supposedly trying to achieve. And the pay per mile system that they're all so happy about and really kind of pro, don't know what the pricing is going to be. I would suggest when any new tax comes in, it costs everyone more money. And there'll be people watching this now that say, like, well, I only do 5,000 miles a year. Why should I pay as much as you when you're doing 10,000 miles a year? But that's fine if your 5,000 miles a year is actually going to cost you less than it does already. If you used to pay 190 quid a year for your tax, and with that new pay per mile system, you're paying 600 quid, are you going to be so pro it? So let's keep our powder dry on this one until we know perhaps what the facts and figures are. But for the moment, this sounds like it could hurt very, very much. And I think the guy at the RAC that said this may have been having a bad day. I'll leave it like that. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Jeep's new £100,000 electric flagship set to drive UK growth. Firm's new boss is confident it can boost UK sales ahead of electric model push. I think 100 grand's too much to ask for a Jeep in the UK. I don't think it's a strong enough brand over here, to be honest. But it would have to be an amazingly compelling case to get 100 grand for a Jeep in the UK, in my personal opinion. JLR will reinvent the Discovery to take it out of Defender's shadow. The reborn 6th generation SUV will emphasise a family adventure focus and is tipped for ICE and EV variants. Auto Express say the UK face an electric car technician shortage unless the government acts. A petition's been launched to increase the cap on apprentice funding as skills shortfall looms. 𝙇𝙄𝙉𝙆𝙎 say that if Skills England, which takes over control of the apprenticeship levy from IFATA via a bill now announced in July, failed to immediately increase the funding cap by 20%. This is the funding cap on apprenticeships, and subsequently fails to keep abreast of inflation, the consequences will be dire. They say the new Labour government must ensure that upskilling within the automotive sector is a priority. 𝙇𝙄𝙉𝙆𝙎 is encouraging everyone throughout the UK auto repair supply chain to sign its petition and demonstrate support for change to the apprenticeship. New Hyundai Ioniq 9, some leaked images from this by the looks of it. Obviously, this is going to be the Hyundai version of the Kia EV9. You can see it there with lots of blankets on. It looks like it's going to take probably some styling cues from the sort of design language we've seen on the new Hyundai Santa Fe. But as it's going to have the Ioniq name on it, we can expect some pixel-based lighting and all that kind of good stuff, I would imagine. That interior looks like it's just come out of the EV9 to me anyway, so I would expect it to be quite a similar thing. And in terms of the technical specs of this, it is expected to just kind of mirror the EV9 really. Now, it's rumoured that this is going to launch at the LA Auto Show in November, and I'm delighted to say that I'm going to the LA Auto Show in November for the second year on the trot. Main difference this year is that that's all going to be on my channel. Last year I went for Men and Motors. This year it's going to be on my channel, and I'll be trying to get you that footage out as quickly as possible. I know I got loads of great feedback after the Geneva show, so hopefully lots of you will watch that when it comes. New Honda HR-V facelift adds sharper look to compact hybrid SUV. Honda's best-selling model in Europe has received some interior tweaks and extra safety kit. It's a great car, the HR-V. It really is a brilliant little thing. Anything they do to sort of polish it up a bit and make it look a little bit more interesting is good, in my opinion. That's the only thing you can really criticise about it. It's perhaps not the most interesting of vehicles. MPG you can get from it is exceptional. It's a really nice car to drive. I'm a big fan, so I hope to get one of those in for review, actually. Volvo adjusts EV-only deadline and will sell hybrid cars beyond 2030. Firm's global sales mix will consist of 90 to 100% electric cars by the end of the decade, pushing back on the previous goal. So previously, Volvo said they were going to do 100% all electric by 2030, and they're now saying they're going to do 90 to 100%. And they're still going to sell hybrid cars. I think that's great. New Volvo EX60 mid-size electric SUV will use next-generation tech in fight against BMW and Audi. The new EX60 will arrive in 2026 and slot in between the compact EX40 and 7-seater EX90. So this is basically the electric version of the XC60. It's going to have a structural battery pack, which is great. Gives you a nice rigid chassis. Tesla and BYD are already using it. I know Renault are doing it in the new 5. It seems to make quite a lot of sense. And Volvo are making a lot of noise about using recycled materials. They're going to start at 20% recycled aluminium and hope to increase that percentage during the lifespan of the vehicle. EU tariffs on Chinese-made EVs would wipe out Cupra, says their boss Wayne Griffiths. He says that the extra 21.3% tax would put the whole financial future of the company at risk. It says here Cupra fears being wiped out by the impending EU import tariffs on Chinese-made EVs due to a snowball effect that would put the whole financial future of the company at risk. Proposals being trialled by the European Commission target both Chinese car makers and European firms that have moved to production in China where operating costs are cheaper. Be careful what you wish for, European manufacturers, eh? VW backed Scout brand to unveil full Bronco rival on the 24th of October. I'd say it's more a Rivian rival, to be fair, because they're looking at an SUV and a pickup here. I wonder if this is something we might see in LA as well. Scout is a revival of the old brand International Harvester, and VW are backing this. The brand will unveil in an electric rival for the Land Rover Defender and Ford Bronco, alongside a closely related pickup to take on the Rivian R1T and the Ford F-150 Lightning. Now, this is going to be on a brand new platform. You would think, because VW are backing it, they'd use either the MEB platform, which is in lots of the ID cars, or the forthcoming PPE platform that's been developed with Porsche. But apparently it's going to be something completely different, which seems a little odd. The first Scouts will roll off the production line in South Carolina in 2026, and the VW group plans to gradually ramp up the factory's output to 200,000 cars annually. Obviously, these kind of vehicles do very, very well in the US. Whether we ever see them over here remains to be seen, really. But yeah, interesting news. The ZEV mandate is creating a state-imposed supply chain, according to the boss of Virtue. Manufacturers are constraining the ability for dealers to supply petrol cars in order to keep government targets. So this is something that I've heard is going on, is that manufacturers are saying now to dealerships, you can't have more of those petrol cars unless you sell more electric cars. And that's because obviously it's the manufacturer that's going to get the huge fine, not the dealership, if they fail to meet the target. So apparently this is starting to happen. And the boss of Virtue says manufacturers are constraining the ability for dealers to supply petrol cars in order to try and keep to the government targets. He claimed it was creating a state-imposed supply chain. Interesting stuff. The new Cupra Terramar SUV brings 268 brake horsepower and handling focus. New BMW X1 and VW Tiguan rival gets two performance-oriented models, including a 70-mile PHEV. This is going to be based on the Tiguan platform, and it's kind of what you would expect from a Cupra version of a Tiguan. It looks a bit more aggressive, but it's going to share most of the good bits with it. New Dacia Duster gains hybrid and starts at £18,745. New 4x4 moves to a modern platform, bringing significant technological update. Autocar say that this pricing will mean it keeps the status of one of the UK's cheapest SUVs and the best bargain on the market. So for that price, you'll get a 99 brake horsepower 4-cylinder bi-fuel petrol LPG engine, which will be the only non-electrified platform in the base level expression trim. With both brimmed, the Duster can do around 800 miles without stopping for fuel, according to official tests How easy is LPG to get hold of these days? BMW to launch hydrogen cars in 2028. The move is part of the brand's partnership with Toyota and is a milestone in automotive history. The first model is likely to be an X5 because we've already seen an X5 with hydrogen. This is a milestone in automotive history, said Oliver Zipse, BMW's chairman. Zipsy. I don't know. Powered by hydrogen and driven by the spirit of cooperation. Ooh. It will underscore how technological progress is shaping the future of mobility. It will herald an era of significant demand for fuel cell electric vehicles, and the move will make the German brand the first car maker to offer mass-produced fuel cell electric vehicle, with Toyota's Mirai and Hyundai's Nexo only ever offered in limited numbers. I think lots of people on paper think hydrogen's a brilliant idea, and I think they like the idea because it's just like going to a petrol station. So you fill the car up in 3 minutes or something and off you go on your way. That's very true, but I think it's going to be very expensive. As far as I'm aware, it's very expensive to develop, and it uses a lot of electricity to develop, and it's very expensive to transport. And at the moment, there is zero infrastructure for it in this country anyway. Probably the future is a mix of all different kind of powertrains. I don't think the future will be 100% battery. I think we'll have synthetic fuel cars. I think we'll have hydrogen cars. I think we'll have battery cars. But that's a good thing. The more choice we have, the more people will be happy, and hopefully the less of this ridiculous tribalism will exist. New car sales slow in August ahead of September's new plate month. For Puma, top registrations for the month followed closely by Kia Sportage, while EV share jumped. This is the first time ever, I think, that in a month the EV share hit the zero emissions mandate figure. 22.6% in August. And obviously the mandate this year is 22%. But overall, it still looks like that 2024 is going to get missed. I think it's about 17% at the moment for the year. Folks, thanks ever so much for watching. Please go and follow me somewhere else. All the things are popping up on the screen at the moment. And don't forget, if you want to chat with me about anything, you can book a call with me. If you'd like to buy me a coffee, that's always appreciated. There's a link in the video description. But most of all, I'd love you to subscribe to the channel. So please click that subscribe button, give the video a thumbs up, and please come back for more. Thanks ever so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.